Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today we're talking about education. So before jumping into the topic, Happy New Year 2026. I cannot believe the years are flying by. For those of you who are thinking about putting into motion all of the things that you would like to put in place for this year, all of the changes, whether they're intrinsic or extrinsic changes, like hats off to you for starting the year off strong. And so I'm also holding myself accountable to that same effect, but I wanted to have a conversation here around some of the themes for the changes that I'm putting in place this year, which more so pertain to fear. And I want to talk a little bit about our relationship with fear and how we cultivate a level of awareness of how much it is that fear drives the decisions that we make in our lives. These are the decisions to move or to stay. These are the decisions to kind of make that leap of faith or kind of stay in your corner. I want to have that conversation because I recognize in the last few years, a lot of what has gotten me to where I am now, it's been a bit of a double-edged sword around fear, right? So I think fear has helped me progress in a lot of different ways, as well as having held me back in a lot of different ways. And so when I was doing my reflection this year, I was thinking about, well, really, like, I have a lot of work that I need to do to reset and reframe my dynamic with fear, because fear, I think, is the reason why I have survived a lot of betrayals that I've survived, because I'm not someone who's necessarily crippled by fear. I think fear for me propels me to engage in self-preserving tactics. Like, I think I can be really very strategic about how I manage my life when it comes to things that are creating fear in my life. I can create distance. I'm good at creating distance between myself and the things that scare me. But I think that it has been too much the lever that I have leveraged over the last 5 years. And at this point, I'm recognizing that it might be overused. And so I want to have that conversation because I think if you have survived a traumatic experience around fear, and as a result of that, a lot of your decisions are fear-based. And even like the little decisions, like even like going out for lunch is a fear-based choice. Like, I find that predictability, I'm much more cognizant as to how predictable my routines are, which is very fear-based. And I think that it makes sense, like, if you have been stalked before, your routines are your enemy. Like, any degree of predictability can and will be used against you for sure. But I think that there's just different ways to manage that fear so that it's not something that's running your life. And I think that I've reached this point where I'm at a crossroads where I don't need to operate with the same level of vigilance as I have operated in the last 5 years. It doesn't mean that I need to like remove that vigilance altogether, but it means I need to adapt it to where I am now and how I am now. And these are the three areas where fear has really taken a seat, where I'm now looking to reframe, reset my dynamic with fear in relation to these specific things. And so the first one is social. So for those of you who don't know me outside of this forum or outside of this context, I'm a social butterfly. I have always been a hugely social human being. A lot of people who know me would call me extroverted, but I think because of the stalking, the fear-based, the intimidation, the coercion that I've experienced, I've definitely gone more into my introversion phase. And so even when I did my Myers-Briggs, I got like right down the line, like with 1 degree, I think it was 1 point over introversion. But I don't know if you know Myers-Briggs, but with Myers-Briggs, there's 4 dimensions. And the first one is introversion versus extroversion. Now, the definition of introversion versus extroversion has to do with how you recharge your energy. So do you get your energy by being like very stimulated around people, having conversations that are more shallow but with different people, or more introversion, whereas like you restore your energy by yourself, or having deep one-on-one conversations with very little stimulation, like, you know, sort of at one in in the quiet. And I'm right down the middle, which means I need a little bit of both, right? And so I consider myself to be an ambivert, but I've really not tapped into my extroversion side, and that is only fear-based, right? I am someone who really enjoys being social. I enjoy laughing. I enjoy having a good time with other people, but because of the things that I have been subjected to, I've really not indulged in that. I've considered it to be an indulgence that has a lot of risks associated to it. Now, I don't think that it has the greater degree of risks associated to it as it had maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years years ago, but I've not changed my level of vigilance. And so this year, I'm still going to be vigilant, of course, but I'm going to be vigilant within the lens of I trust my judgment. I trust myself to know what setting is a setting where I can align myself to, what people that I can align myself to, and what settings I will opt out of. And I am a very good judge of character. I think that a lot of my fear was just wondering, like, what if I make a mistake? And mistakes are high stakes in my situation or in any situation where you're dealing with stalking and coercion, where people are incentivized around you essentially to not have goodwill towards you essentially. And so that's one of the things that I've decided I don't want that be what drives my decision making moving forward. Like, I miss that social element. I would like to get back into tennis. It's something that I've been trying to get into for years. I've not given myself the chance to do that. I have my tennis racket. I brought this racket with me literally all around the world, everywhere that I have been, and it is going to get used in 2026. So social is the first one. Now the second one has to do with even growing my business. And so I'm so excited about creating community with Project Purpose, whether that's through my parent-child workshop or through the adult development program that I have offered. Now again, like I've told you, like I started this program because I have a background in training and development. And with that, I have a background in cognitive neuroscience as well as technical communications, which gives me the fundamentals to build programs that will really be transformative for you if you're looking to cultivate that self-mastery and focus on that inner alignment. And so having worked in HR, I worked in talent management, having had experience with career transitions, both personally and in industry, I think this is something that is just so underutilized and under, I think, serviced in the day-to-day. And I think it's something that would be a great investment for each person to make in their own growth trajectories. And so that's something that I'm here to offer as it relates to building community. A lot of my fear has really hindered my progress in building community because I want to be really intentional, really mindful about it. I want to be super cognizant of the ways that I am impacting and interacting with people as well. And I want to just make sure that I do it right. And so I initially built the program to be in person. It has evolved with the pandemic to an online platform, which I'm so excited about. I have people from all over the world subscribe to the platform. And so if you take a look, if you'd like to join the community, I actually only started this YouTube channel to give visibility in the kinds of discussions around sort of existential philosophical conversations that play into the programs that we have available for pay at Project Purpose. And I've really enjoyed these conversations. I've enjoyed the podcast that I've created as well, because the conversations aren't necessarily, these are just kind of sound bites of the kinds of conversations where if you're interested in these sound bites, then it's probably a good indication that you'd be interested in some of the purpose-driven development programs that we have offered available. So I think fear around building community is something that I'm also going to manage. I'm really excited to be that we're building, and I can't allow some of the experiences that I've had to really hinder the progression of that. So that's something that I'm also going to keep under lock for this year as well, because Project Purpose is growing and I want to just be growing with her. So growing in my own personal journey so that I continue to carry and support her growth trajectory the way that I've envisioned it. And last but not least, I think that when it comes to fear, just generally, even I think the way that fear has driven my decision making, even on a day-to-day basis, like the things I do and don't do, I want it to be different. I want more so things that excite me to be what drives my decision making. And then I can let fear kind of take into consideration some of the elements that I have to be cognizant of by way of security and safety. I think that security and safety are going to be the themes that I leverage to replace fear, because then I can do the things that really excite me, that give me a thrill. Also keeping in mind that, like, just because I do it doesn't mean I'm putting myself at risk. I can do it with the lens of security and safety. And so those are going to be the themes for this year. And if you yourself are combating with fear, you've been kind of doing that song and dance because you've dealt with a pretty extreme situation that has left you feeling fearful, but not to the point where you're completely crippled and not doing anything, but to the point where the things that you are doing are very much still influenced by fear. I think that this is a journey that we can take on, because I recognize that now I'm ready to scale back, have fear play a little bit less of a role in the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And so I wanted to have that conversation here, more so to keep myself accountable to this commitment as well, but also to hopefully speak to anyone else who is figuring out how they want to live day by day while also dealing with their own relationship fear. And maybe you didn't think about it that way, but if you yourself have gone through anything significant, then I can assure you that fear is definitely playing a role in how you show up. And I think if you cultivate that level of awareness, it can be a positive role rather than a negative one, and be something something that propels your growth and development rather than being something that hinders it. So that's what I wanted to come in here and talk about, some food for thought for you. Now, again, if I've piqued your interest, we do offer programs. We offer family, parent-child style workshops to focus on cultivating that leadership quotient in children. So these are focused on, we have a starter course that's focused more so on self-concept. And from that, we have 3 of our signature programs focusing on autonomy, self-efficacy, and compassion. We do have full programs for adults. And so I'd initially offered these as single session sound bites, but I actually have packaged them into 12-week sessions. So if you're looking for very in-depth and transformative experience through a 12-week program, then we have those available to you. They can be parsed into 1 month, so into 4-week programs, or you can do just the 1-day shot. But I think that there's a lot of benefit for you to do the full 12-week course. Lots of transformation, and also an opportunity to join our continuous online learning environments that it gives you the opportunity to engage and cultivate community for people who are on the same journey. So thank you again for tuning in. If you're still here, we are on the road to 1K. Every like helps, every follow helps so much. So if you're still here, definitely follow us, not just on here, but on all of our social media accounts. And thank you so much again for giving us a small role to play in your journey. We'll talk to you all very soon.